Messengers from the future. You can take it as truth or as a story. I want to send the message of humanity after 3000 AD to the present human beings. I want to contribute to the peace of the world and the development of humanity. Japan has become a leader in the world. However, the differences between countries and races are not so important anymore. They do not mean much anymore. The human race in the 2000 is seen from us after 3000. I feel so sorry for them that I weep. After 3000, people had sex out of obligation, but not for pleasure. But they rarely have sex for pleasure. If they did, they would be treated in a hospital. We live in an age where the greatest virtue is to help your partner evolve and improve. The most respected occupation in Japan is civil servant after 3000. This should come as a surprise to you. In the 2000s, civil servants were known as bureaucrats, as if they were. They were called lazy, salary thieves and other nasty things. However, 1,000 years later, the situation has changed dramatically. The people have become truly devoted to the service of the people. Instead of the civil servants in the 2000, who kicked the citizens to the ground. Since the year 3000, government officials have been going around to every home and company. Do you have any problems? Please tell us anything. We'll help you in any way we can. It's the kind of work where you go to the people in trouble and they thank you. The people who are helped in this way and their children aspire to become civil servants, and everyone aims to become a civil servant. This is the society after 3000. The United States will be in a dire situation once. Not because of the war, but because it was ostracized by the rest of the world. No one but the US will pay the price of war in the end. An international conference, which did not exist in the 2000s, began to emerge. An international conference without the US. This is too much mental pressure for the Americans, but they have no choice. There is no way around it. Americans ask Japan, Canada, and Britain to intercede for us. But it will take a long time. It will be a time when America will be left behind. Still, it will take a long time, but eventually we will reach a settlement. I can't tell geographically, but natural disasters will occur in the future. After the year 3000, spiritualists will be the majority of humanity. When a family member dies, a psychic will be present to prevent grief. In some places, death is celebrated as a blessing. It is a pity that humanity in the past has been consumed with grief over the death of a loved one. I cannot help sympathizing and tearing for those who do not know that the soul lives on after death. A trip to the moon is a standard school trip. The moon was a pollution site due to illegal dumping by unscrupulous people. However, it seems to be improving little by little. Whether aliens come or not, it doesn't make sense. They communicate telepathically. People who are only interested in making money are despised, even if they are rich. After 3000, people who generously share their money will be respected. The number of people who commit crimes for money will be greatly reduced. It is common knowledge that people who evade the laws of this world will be judged in the next world. After 3000, in the case of a person with remarkable evolution, a couple of hours after their death, they will be conceived in the belly of another woman. Of course, they may be reborn a few hundred years later. The time of birth is a free choice. You can choose when you are born. In the case of the human race in 2000, rest and comfort were indispensable for a hard life. In the afterlife, we will be given enough rest. When we try to get up and try to move, we are told, "You still need to rest." As a message from humanity after 3000. Do not commit suicide, no matter how painful or difficult it is. That's all I can say. We know that there is nothing to be gained by killing yourself. Illnesses have improved dramatically and life expectancy is about 96 to 100 years. Walking around town can be depressing. Because I don't know if they are human or robot on the street. When I tried to pick up a girl, I was disillusioned because she was a robot that looked like a human. Many people overcome serious illnesses. For example, by making a metallic noise every time he moves his arms. He may have had metal implanted in the surgery. Many children with serious disabilities are punished for having misused some talent in a previous life by being trapped in a body that is difficult to move around in order to atone for their sins by suffering. The reasons for this are clear, so there is no need to tamper with them. Masturbation gives you immediate pleasure. But we all know that improving as a human being is a much greater pleasure, so we feel foolish to spend all our time having sex. After the year 3000, at least, 1 out of 5 people will be a psychic. The role of spiritualists is many cases and have been of great help to the progress of mankind. Moreover, it seems that some people are beginning to be able to remember their previous lives accurately. They are able to do things that were impossible around the year 2000. If you want to remember your past life accurately, one of the criteria is whether you can accurately recall your dreams when you were asleep. This is because when we sleep, our soul leaves our body and goes from place to place. If a person can remember this dream accurately, he can remember his previous life accurately. Just before waking up, the soul is returned to the body. Because the human brain is too small, we can't remember all memory. Then I had a strange dream. Or something like that. Attraction to the opposite sex is the same in the past as in the future. It's the normal thing to do. It is the same in the past, present, and future. A boy to be attracted to a pretty girl. It is a healthy form. I'm sure you don't understand. In the 2000s, people are focused on material things that they were blinded to the whole picture. You can't help but masturbate, but what gives you more pleasure is serving and helping the weak for free of charge. You cannot know that it will be 1,000 or 10,000 times more joyful than masturbating. In the future, after 3000, there will be very few people who eat meat. We will eat mainly cereals. Fish will be eaten, but in very small quantities. After 3000, robots will be too advanced to explain. It is difficult to explain. As mentioned before, it will soon be difficult to distinguish between a human and a robot. It's commonplace to see robotic humans strolling around town with their robotic pets. It's so realistic that when I picked up a girl, I accidentally talked to a robot. After 3000, there will be no more wars. Healing is the main method of curing diseases, followed by immunotherapy for serious illnesses. Western medicine continues to be used for disinfecting injuries. The progress of science comes to solve every problem. Even meteorite impacts by asteroids will be avoided by the power of science. That is the Earth of the future. After 3000, telepathic communication will be more popular than conversation on the Earth. That's because people grow up. Telepathic communication allows us to send communications in the form of inspiration to people in the past. The person in the past who receives the inspiration will pass it on. Inspiration can be passed from person to person, transcending physical limitations. However, the range of transmission is strictly controlled, and it is forbidden to transmit any communication beyond that range. No light or radio waves are reaching the Earth in a straight line. Reflection and absorption is happening. Everything you see is only less than or equal to 300,000 kilometers per second. As human science develops, you can see why even Einstein failed to create a constant. Even though it looks like a perfect sphere on Earth, it is not a perfect sphere, so when you calculate it in physics, the calculation is different in different regions. The laws that apply to the solar system on a cosmic scale do not always apply to other stars, and the physics of a star affected by a black hole is completely different to that of the Earth. But there's a clue. You're too dumb to have an answer before you're too late. In a world after 3000, you can still use a mobile phone if you want to, but it is a primitive machine. Most of the people who bother to use it are in developing countries. Human-to-human telepathic communication can convey more information, more feelings. Much faster than light is spiritual telepathic communication. In other words, there is little point in trying to use a cell phone which you used in 2000s. In the world after the year 3000, I want you to remember that when someone dies, it will be a funeral where everyone celebrates together. This is because they are returning from the human world to their original world. After death, when the cords connecting the body and soul have been cut and confirmed by several psychics, the body is generally taken to the crematorium and cremated much earlier, although the bereaved family may have their own wishes. On the other hand, the funeral is more like a big party or a super lively state. The deceased's deceased relatives and family members. Family members from previous lives. Doctors in the spirit world who cut the cords that connect the body and soul. In addition, the guardian spirits who protected the deceased during his or her lifetime will also join in. It's like a big party, and very few people are grieving. This is because an increasing number of families have the psychic ability to see the deceased just after death. There are some spirits that immediately take up residence in the body of the baby as another woman's child within 2 or 3 hours after death, but these are rather few, so we can enjoy the time of farewell to the fullest. Seeing the sad funerals around 2000 AD is incredibly painful for humans after 3000. I would like to continue to send messages to humans who have gone back 1,000 years, hoping that they will be of some comfort to them. We have the language, but the language of the human race is extremely limited in its ability to express itself. If humans can use telepathy, it is better to communicate with each other telepathically. I don't want you to think of it as a messenger from the future. Rather, I would like you to think of it as a way of thinking that is a little more evolved than the human race of today. I also want to tell you that the Olympics will decline in the future. The number of people who are interested in it will decrease dramatically. Most people will come to know about the afterlife, which was still unknown to most people in the year 2000. Naturally, the way we live and our common sense will change, and we will all be able to help each other. Also, we don't need to listen to prophets. You must respect the opinions of scholars who say when earthquakes and volcanic explosions will occur, but other than that, please ignore all prophecies such as human extinction in the year. They are of no use to the progress of humanity. Even the spirits in the spirit world know that there will be various calamities and harm to the earth's humanity, but only the conclusion is known first, and it is impossible to predict exactly when it will happen. Because only God Almighty knows it all. The lesson that I would like to recommend to the entire human race is to live in moderation. It's not bad to save money and enjoy life, but if that's all you do, there's no point in being born. There may be people who need your help, somewhere in the world, somewhere in Japan. I hope you will keep that in mind as much as possible and live your life to help those people if necessary. Such a way of life is precious. The value of such a life will be well understood after death. In the case of people who can use telepathy, first, they face each other. And if you try to communicate your mind to the other person, it will automatically be transmitted. The only difference is whether you speak with your mouth or not. If you use your mouth to communicate, it's called talking. If you don't use your mouth to communicate, it's called telepathy. There is a lot of practice in trying to communicate without using your mouth. However, the ability to do so is different from each person. Telepathic communication comes very close to the way things are done in the afterlife. It is sadly almost impossible for human beings in the year 2000, but in a later time, when we are reborn again, we will be able to do it quite normally. One application of telepathy is to be able to say to someone far away, "I want to communicate with you." And the other person responds to the telepathic message. If the other person responds to your telepathic message, you will be able to communicate with them even though you are far away. Note that there are times when the other person rejects telepathic communication itself. This will happen if the other person does not like you. Of course, material civilization is alive after 3000. But it is of utmost importance for each human being to make progress, and all attention is directed. It is a fact that the spirit world is the original home and that we are spirits with bodies. In a word, we can say that we are a species buried under the ground. It's dark in the ground, so you can't see what's going on around you. When we emerge from the earth, we awaken to what we call death. When you overcome the most feared barrier called death and become a resident of the spirit world, you will be able to see yourself clearly, but it is almost 100% impossible to recognize yourself while you are still alive. However, for humans after 3000, death will be the greatest joy of all. It is certain that the disease cannot be cured, and all that is left is to watch. There is nothing we can do, and soon we will die. Some people will shed tears of joy. It is safe to say that the spirit world and the place where human beings live on earth are in exactly the same place. Rather, it is just one place in the spiritual world. We come down to the human world carrying the garment of the body, which is extremely uncomfortable. When they have finished their task, they return to the spirit world again. That's all. As for the other planets, the knowledge and ability to understand them was not available to the human race in the year 2000. We don't need to know about other planets, because we don't have enough knowledge and ability to understand them.